Before we begin, please be aware that this podcast contains discussion of sensitive topics, such as abuse of minors, of vulnerable adults, and safeguarding practices. Some content may be distressing or triggering for listeners. This program is intended for an adult audience. If you or someone you know is affected by these issues, we encourage you to seek support from a trusted professional or a local support service. Listener discretion is advised.
Very important part of me is that I'm a survivor. I was abused when I was a child. The loneliness of not being believed, that's terrible for survivors. I believe that some voices are being heard, definitely more than before, but sadly, there are still many that are being ignored. In some places, still questioning a priest or a bishop is unthinkable. Culture can never be an excuse for failing survivors. Never. Secrecy is not an option. The church should stop worrying about their reputation and start centering on survivors.
Welcome to this second episode of Inside Safeguarding, the official podcast of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. From Rome, I'm William Roberts from the Commission's communications team. Each month, we bring you a reflective look at the Commission's work, conversations on safeguarding as they evolve, and a deeper insight into the wider challenges facing the Church today. In this episode, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment. A new Pope has been elected. The world is watching, and for those of us working in safeguarding, the question is not only who leads the Church, but how that leadership will shape the culture of protection and justice going forward. Let's begin with a recap of this month's key developments. The death of Pope Francis in April, on Easter Monday, brought a deeply poignant close to a papacy that had advanced critical reforms in safeguarding. His passing cast a solemn shadow over the Church, but also ushered in a period of profound reflection on its future direction. Just over 2 weeks later, the College of Cardinals gathered in conclave, and on the 5th of May, Cardinal Robert Prevost from Chicago was elected Pope Leo XIV. In the days leading up to the conclave, the Commission launched a call to prayer for the cardinals of the Church for safeguarding, healing, justice, and renewal. It reflected an urgent conviction that the cardinals electing the next pope must anchor their decision in a clear commitment to protecting the vulnerable. The prayer expressly invited the Holy Spirit to guide discernment towards policies and leaders capable of serious accountability. It urged engaged reflection on questions of justice, transparency, and the grave duty owed to those harmed within the Church community. As a sign of his personal commitment to the centrality of safeguarding in the life of the Church, Pope Leo XIV called the Commission to a meeting with him on the 5th of June in the Apostolic Palace. In the course of a conversation that lasted 1 hour and took place in the Papal Library, the Commission reiterated its commitment to the unity and collegiality of its members. A letter signed by all members following the March 2025 Plenary Assembly underscored the need for continuity in our mandate, our governance, and our working methods, affirming the Commission's independence and its role as a trusted advisor to the Holy Father. Beyond Rome, the Church's commitment to prevention and healing was expressed through deep, practical work in diverse contexts. One striking example comes from the remote reaches of Patagonia. Under the banner of the Memorare initiative, a collaborative effort between church and state, local authorities held an intensive training session in Trelew, in the Chubut region. Over 2 days, almost 100 people, including diocesan safeguarding teams, provincial government officials, and even the Attorney General's office, gathered to learn how to strengthen systems for the protection of minors. The training culminated in the inauguration of the first of 4 newly planned listening centers across Patagonia, anchored in the principles of attentive reception, accompaniment, and prevention. What made this gathering remarkable was its setting. In a region often regarded as the last frontier of Argentina, local church leaders described it as a young church, stepping forward to embrace safeguarding not as an obligation, but as a deeply pastoral mission. Father Daniel Portillo, the communications regional expert for Latin America, emphasized that this collaboration is anchored in mutual trust, transparency, and accountability, demonstrating how institutional alliances can genuinely serve the wounded. The center, blessed by the Bishop of Rawson, is now open for survivors, offering a space for listening and healing. In tandem with efforts in Patagonia, the Church's global safeguarding network saw renewed commitment from Australia. The Australian Catholic Bishops' Conference announced its reaffirmed support for the Commission's global initiatives. In Sydney, church leaders emphasised their dedication to the universal guidelines framework established by the Commission. Their message recognised that safeguarding must be more than policy. It needs to be internalised at the local level, adapted to regional realities, languages, and cultural specifics. The highlight of this commitment was a renewed collaboration to ensure safeguarding standards, particularly in high-profile cases, inform day-to-day pastoral care. Sydney's experience underscores a key lesson. Global standards matter, but they only bear fruit when translated concretely in local settings. Meanwhile, in Europe, Poland hosted a national safeguarding summit under the banner Community of Hope. Addressing some 200 safeguarding professionals, Bishop Luis Manuel Ali Herrera, Secretary of the Commission, offered what he called a revolution of transparency. He refused to reduce safeguarding to bureaucratic compliance. Instead, he challenged institutions to listen with openness and humility, to embed survivor voices in leadership decisions, and to transform organizational cultures. For Bishop Ali Herrera, transparency is both a moral demand and an expression of effective safeguarding. The summit's consensus was clear. Honesty must permeate every layer of church life if trust is to be genuinely restored. Taken together, these developments reflect a common thread. Safeguarding demands attention at both the structural and the spiritual levels. It must combine public policy with institutional transformation and real pastoral accompaniment. But what connects these initiatives most powerfully to the election of Pope Leo XIV is their shared orientation toward justice guided by hope. A prayerful appeal in Rome, the listening centre in Patagonia, the global commitment in Australia, and the summit in Poland, they all urge us to ask fundamental questions. Will safeguarding be shaped by a reactive compliance or by a proactive vision of care and healing? Will this pontificate acknowledge that safeguarding is not merely an administrative matter, but is woven into the Church's mission to defend the most vulnerable? In a world marked by growing demands for accountability, this pontificate carries a unique opportunity to restore trust through meaningful action. As Pope Leo XIV begins his ministry and the Commission advances its mission, this moment offers real promise, the chance to bring about the renewal envisioned in these articles with the clarity, courage, and commitment the times call for. So, to summarize this month, the election of Pope Leo XIV marks a moment of choice for the Church, to center safeguarding in leadership and action. Around the world, we're already seeing signs of this choice in practice, from prayerful discernment in Rome, to healing spaces in Patagonia, to transparency summits in Poland, to deepened standards in Australia. These steps suggest a church determined not just to honor the past, but to learn from it and change course. You're listening to Inside Safeguarding. In our next segment, I'll be speaking with Juan Carlos Cruz about his personal journey, his advocacy, and his hopes for the future of safeguarding in the Church. I'm William Roberts. Thank you for joining me. And now, in the interview segment of this episode of Inside Safeguarding, we're joined by Juan Carlos Cruz. Juan Carlos has been a member of the Commission since 2021. He's also an internationally recognized advocate for survivors of clerical sexual abuse and a survivor in his own right. Over the past decade, Juan Carlos has played a key role in reshaping the global conversation about safeguarding. He's been a tireless voice for greater transparency and accountability, and for ensuring that survivor perspectives are no longer marginalized but brought to the center of the Church's response. We're very grateful to have him with us here today. Juan Carlos, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, can we start off with a brief introduction about yourself, your background story, and what it was that brought you to the Commission?
Yes, so in my professional life, I'm an executive, communications executive in multinational companies, but I'm also very important part of me is that I'm a survivor. I was abused when I was a child in Chile, where I'm originally from. I've lived in the United States for 24 years. Now I live in Madrid. And my life has been quite dedicated to support survivors, victims, survivors all over the world. And, you know, it's kind of a job that I didn't expect, but it's been incredibly rewarding. It's been incredibly painful at the same time. But I'm glad that if I can use my story to help others, I'm eager to do that. I'm also very honored to be in the Pontifical Commission. And I've been here since 2021. And I hope I can keep serving as long as they need me.
Okay, thank you. Now, Juan Carlos, let me start off with quite a direct question to you. Do you really believe that victims and survivors' voices are heard?
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe that some voices are being heard definitely more than before. But sadly, there are still many that are being ignored. There's been obviously undeniable progress in many parts of the church. Pope Francis opened many doors. I think Pope Leo will continue opening them. But and doors that were shut, definitely shut. But being heard is not the same as being believed. It's not the same as being supported. It's not the same as being treated with justice and repaired in some way. Many survivors still feel that their testimony is met with questions, with defensiveness, with much silence and lack of transparency, and many even with polite dismissal. And that is heartbreaking, that in this day and age we continue doing that. So yes, I do believe that survivors, many are being listened to, but we still need to do a lot do a lot more and strive for real accountability to help them.
You're very high profile, and this comes at a cost. Less known to most people is the amount of low-key work you've been doing for victims and survivors. Now, through this work, what role do local cultures play as an obstacle?
Well, thanks for that question, because I've worked a lot, many continents. I've seen the power of local culture, and I've seen the power structures as well, which is a big part of the culture, and languages where abuse is hidden, or minimized, or even not addressed. It's not a word that you can use. In some places, still questioning a priest or a bishop is not all right. It's unthinkable. But in others, many survivors are seen like threats, like they're coming after money, or they're coming after, not as people that are reaching out for healing and that deserve healing and justice. But those are very striking commonalities. But there's also the pain of being silenced, the loneliness of not being believed. That's terrible for survivors when we have to tell our stories and you're not believed, you're questioned, and there's a deep need for justice and for dignity. It's so important. So culture can never be an excuse for failing survivors. Never. It must be understood, but it cannot be a rock that doesn't allow us to help survivors and to believe them and care for them.
When you speak to other survivors globally, what are the recurring frustrations they express about the church's response?
I think the word that I hear regularly, amongst others, but one is delay. The delay when they're asked, survivors are asked to be patient with the church studies or discerns their case, and that patience comes at a cost for mental health of people, for their safety, for their faith. So that's one. Another thing that I hear is opacity. So survivors, and I've experienced it myself, that they often feel like they're speaking into a void. There's no updates, there's no clarity, there's no accountability. And perhaps what I think is most hurtful is that many feel that they're being treated as a problem, and not like people that need to be restored. And that is painful. We need to do better.
Right. And so given that, Juan Carlos, what practical reforms would you propose to ensure that survivors are kept informed, respected, and protected throughout?
Well, if I had, my will, I mean, I'm so proud of what the Commission has been doing. The people in the Commission, the staff of the Commission, and I wish every survivor could experience that sense of healing and of care that I experience working in the Commission, because it's incredible. I would say a way to keep survivors informed of where their cases are, liaison, or I don't know what the Vatican or the Church would call it, but someone that can advocate for them, someone who can help them through their process. I think transparency should be the norm. Absolutely, transparency should be the norm. Survivors should know where their cases are, what's been decided, and what has not been decided. Secrecy is not an option. I also think that it's important to have survivor-led panels or include survivors in many. They're doing it now, but it should be more throughout the world, working in dioceses and panels, helping dioceses, helping religious orders. Survivors should not just be heard, which obviously they should, and that's the biggest first step, but they should also be asked to help with new systems to protect others. I think the Commission is doing a good job in that aspect, and it should definitely be increased.
Mm-hmm. So what does institutional healing look like to you? I mean, is it even possible without radical change to how survivors are treated?
Yes. Obviously, we need institutional reform as part of one of the pillars of truth, justice, restored, and institutional change. But also, I think the Church should stop worrying about their reputation and start centering on survivors. That means some of these fake apologies. I go to a lot of different countries, different dioceses, and some invite me to participate in a pardon for survivors, or will ask forgiveness, and some feel so I don't know how to say it, but they don't feel sincere. It's more like a book. Okay, we say sorry, that's it. And many others feel incredibly sincere. So I do recognize that there are bishops around the world that are doing very, very good things. Sadly, others are not. And so it means that what I said and what we say in our annual report, the justice reform, restoration, change of the institution, prevention, safeguarding. Healing is possible, but I think the Church needs to be willing to be humbled. And that humility must be radical. And us as Catholics, as members of this Church, we must be humble. Follow. It's easy. We were having a meeting the other day with the Pope, and one of the members said, we need to be humble, and we need to get our humility from what we read in the Gospel. It tells us what to do there, and so the Church of all places needs to do that. And be a church that we cannot talk about the poor, the humble, the vulnerable, continuing to mistreat people. That can't be.
Final question, Juan Carlos. If you have a direct message to those who are still locked in silence, what would it be?
I would say you have our love and you have our support. And know that it might seem like an unsurmountable mountain what you have ahead of you, and it's true. But now there are people who are willing to listen to you, who believe you, who love you, and who will fight for you. That might not be yet a reality all over the world, and we're trying to fight. But there's always someone that can help you. Don't despair, and know that there are people out there that believe you with their eyes closed and that will reach out for you and reach out to you and that will stand by you. So don't believe that there is no solution for you or that you are alone in the world. You are not.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Juan Carlos, for taking the time and for sharing your insights.
I'm glad that we're doing this. Thank you.
And now, here in our final segment of Inside Safeguarding, we take a few minutes to focus on a key element of the Commission's annual report. Now, because this is only the second episode of the podcast, we're still in the process of introducing the annual report to our listeners. So this month, rather than focus on a specific section, I'd like to offer a brief guide to reading the report itself. The annual report is not designed to be read cover to cover. What it offers instead is a collection of perspectives, case studies, and reflections that readers can return to again and again. It's a tool, and one that is meant to be used flexibly. If you're a bishop, a safeguarding officer, a survivor advocate, or someone who wants to better understand how the Church is addressing this global issue, the report invites you to begin where it matters most to you. You might be interested in safeguarding work in your own country, in the efforts of a particular religious congregation, or in how the Roman Curia is contributing to governance and accountability. Or you may wish to explore regional trends and lessons emerging from across the world. Let's take last year's report as an example. The first section of the report, the Local Church in Focus, offers a detailed look at local safeguarding efforts in Brazil, Poland, the DRC, France, the Philippines, and Chile, as well as within the Union of Superiors General and the International Union of Superiors General. It highlights how safeguarding is being structured, what challenges remain, and where innovation is taking place. The second section, the Church's safeguarding mission in the continental regions, provides a broader view of regional developments. This helps surface patterns and opportunities that may not be visible at the local level. The third section, safeguarding policies and procedures of the Roman Curia in service of the local church, examines the work of several key dicasteries, among them the Dicastery of Doctrine of Faith, the Dicastery of Bishops, the Dicastery for Clergy, and the Dicastery for Evangelization. Some dicasteries are directly involved in handling abuse cases, while others focus on formation and prevention. And finally, the fourth section, the Church's safeguarding ministry and society, moves beyond church structures and highlights safeguarding efforts in Catholic schools, healthcare, and social outreach, reminding us that safeguarding is also a public witness. Taken together, the four sections form a dynamic whole. The annual report is there to be consulted according to your own needs and interests. One of its greatest strengths is its ability to share good practices across different parts of the Church. In a global church where leaders may never meet, this is vital. For example, in Poland, a national system of survivor-centered listening centers has been developed in collaboration with lay professionals and civil authorities. This model of transparency and pastoral care could inspire dioceses elsewhere. In Brazil, safeguarding training models are being adapted for diverse cultural and linguistic contexts, helping church leaders better respond to local realities. And in the Philippines, efforts are underway to integrate safeguarding into the church's liturgical and catechetical life, a reminder that safeguarding is not merely administrative, but deeply pastoral. Many of the challenges faced by the church, inadequate formation, a culture of silence, weak reporting mechanisms, are common across regions. Solutions developed in one context can often inform practice elsewhere. This is what makes the annual report more than a document. It's a platform for dialogue, collaboration, and shared accountability. As this series continues, we'll explore individual sections of the report in greater depth. But for now, the message is simple. The annual report is for you. Engage with it according to your own interests, whether you're a member of the church, a safeguarding professional, a survivor, or just someone concerned about the church's future. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Inside Safeguarding. Over the course of each month, we'll continue to follow the Commission's work, speak to those engaged in safeguarding on the ground, and take time to reflect on the wider journey towards accountability and change. If you'd like to read more about the topics we discussed today, or explore the Commission's latest articles and the annual report in full, you can visit us at tutelaminorum.org. You can also subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, where future episodes will be published regularly. Thank you for listening and for taking the time to stay connected to these conversations. I'm William Roberts. Until next time.